Welcome to the DL. This is the show where we talk about everything in the truck and equipment repair industry. It's my job to help inform and educate you on ways to help your business. We talk with technicians, business owners, associations, industry experts, manufacturers, and even a few you wouldn't think traditionally apply to your business. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the DL. I am your host, Tyler Robertson, also the CEO and founder of Diesel Laptops. And this episode today, I want to talk more about resources that are out there to help your business. And I know we deal with a lot of different types of companies, specifically manufacturers. We're starting to do a lot more things with parts. We were just talking off air before this about AMBAC, one of the local companies here that produces fuel injectors in town. I'm sure we'll be talking about some other situations as well. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Andy Carr, Senior Vice President of Operations. So welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thank you, Tyler. It's good to be here.
So there's an acronym here, right? It's a long name first. You want to kind of explain the company and the acronym?
Yeah. So South Carolina Manufacturing Extension Partnership. Yes. SCMEP. That's what we go by, and we are the franchise holder here in South Carolina. The MEP system is a national system. You'll find an MEP in every state. So there's 50. There's actually 51 because there's also one in Puerto Rico as well. So yeah, you are, regardless of what state you are in the U.S., you are served by an MEP center.
Okay, so what exactly does an MEP center do?
Okay, right. SCMEP center, they vary very much from state to state, the way they're funded and things like that. But the common mission is to support the country's small and medium-sized manufacturers. And by that, it's typically manufacturers with 500 employees or less. There's no limit. We can work with 550. We can work with 1,000, 2,000. But typically, the services that we provide are focused on those ones because they don't have the internal resources. The larger companies typically do. So yeah, small and medium-sized manufacturing, keeping them healthy, keeping them globally competitive. That's the mission of the MEP system.
All right. So I'm listening to you talk, and we're in South Carolina. You definitely do not sound like you're from South Carolina, and I probably don't either. Especially when I say about a roof, it usually throws people off a little bit. So you want to talk a little bit about your background and where you came from?
Okay. Yeah. Originally from a town outside Edinburgh in Scotland. The economy in that area, two things, a very, very large shipyard, a Royal Navy shipyard, and you either worked there or you worked in the coal mines. Coal mines kind of disappeared in the late 60s, mid 70s, and my father worked in the shipyard, and I don't think he was too keen for me to follow him. So I did a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, and my first job out of college was with a company called Lucas. No longer with us, but they made all sorts of car components, typically electrical in nature, but also things such as diesel pumps. And they actually had started a plant in Greenville. Okay. And it made, basically the pump kits were made in England. They were assembled here to beat tariffs and import restrictions. And I think they were shipped to Cummins in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. They also, kind of ahead of their time, they also were making a diesel injector for cars, for General Motors. It never really took off. This is the mid-'80s. And the plant was transitioning from diesel injectors to gasoline injectors. And they needed somebody to come out and work there with the plant and help them with just-in-time systems and lean manufacturing systems. So I came out for a 6-month project, fell in love with South Carolina, fell in love with the people. And 32 years later, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm a citizen, though.
Yeah. That whole thing going on right now, too.
Yeah. I'm legal.
Yeah, awesome. Good to know. Don't want someone showing up at the door, right? So
if there's a knock and I duck, you'll understand why, Tyler. Yeah.
All right. So how long have you been with SCMEP then for?
I've been with SCMEP 22 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. So first 17, I was a field agent, a representative out there who's dealing with manufacturers on a daily basis. And we had basically the change in the first generation leadership. Our previous president, he retired, and our vice president of operations at that point became president, and I backfilled him about 4.5 years ago.
Okay. So South Carolina MEP, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you guys help medium to small manufacturers? So you're not out there to focus on the big ones in our state like Boeing and BMW, right? You're more the small guys.
Very much that small to medium, 500 or below. The interesting statistic, actually, Tyler, is if you look at manufacturing in South Carolina, there's about 6,000 manufacturers.
I had no idea there's that many in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. It's grown steadily. I mean, obviously, it's something that we look to attract manufacturers to the state. But when you look at that number, it's actually, and you look at the breakdown, the people who get the column inches, they're the BMWs and the Michelins, the Boeings, the General Electrics, people like that. It's great. We love having them in the state. We really do great jobs, and the supply chains they bring with them. But the majority of the manufacturing in this company actually work in those supply chains. If you look at those 6,000 manufacturers, 71% of them have 20 employees or less. 71%. If you look at and expand that, 91% of them actually have 100 employees or less. So that is the demographic. South Carolina is very much made up of small and medium-sized manufacturers. And actually, it's a demographic that stretches across the U.S. The U.S. is very much made up of small manufacturers.
All right. So, we're sitting here at Diesel Laptops. We got 160 employees. Mm-hmm. I know what it was like when I only had 20 employees or 30 employees. It's tough. Like, you have to wear a lot of hats, and it's hard to be an expert in anything. Mm-hmm. And I know here it was pure chaos with everything we had going on, right? And I can imagine manufacturing, there's a lot of leaky buckets, right? Like waste, or you're not efficient at your job, and you got to have financials and HR and all these things. When you're small, it's hard to be good at those things. Right. So I'm kind of assuming that's kind of where you guys step in and help with that stuff.
Yeah, we're there as a consulting and training resource for those small and medium-sized guys. Our thinking, our way of doing business is that we will always be there to teach you to fish. We're not there to become part of the family. We're not there to be for 6-month projects. We're there to provide you the needs, fractional needs, if you will, for a short period of time, get in there, get you trained, help you implement the proper business systems that are sustainable, and then move on our way. And then the next time you need us, you know where we are. We come back and we can help you with anything else.
So these smaller manufacturers, right? Like you just said, you got 90% are less than 100, and obviously a lot of them are less than 20 or 25.
Right, that's right.
Right. So what are some common things you see with smaller manufacturers where you just walk in there and you're like, oh man, you must already know, like, before you get there, like, these are probably the areas they're deficient in. Yeah. Like, what do you see?
Well, you see a lot of them grow out their small businesses. They start in garages, Tyler.
Yep. Sounds familiar.
Familiar. And there's a lot of times a technical expertise there, perhaps in fabrication, perhaps in machining and things like that. And the companies remain very strong there. There might not be the same degree of expertise in, say, something like marketing or finance or cost analysis and things like that. So making sure that the business is well-rounded, making sure that the business had good, strong systems that will help them sustain, that's the important thing, because it puts a lot of pressure on businesses, and particularly when they're growing and they grow rapidly. There's a lot of holes, a lot of leaky buckets, as you say, can open up. And making sure that you've got good, robust systems that when there's maybe a change in personnel or somebody in the company who wears many hats, the owner, maybe members of the owner's family, that stuff can be handed over and, it can be picked up flawlessly. There's seamless transitions.
Yeah, it's really tough when you're a small business. Like I've been there, done that. It was tough for me until we got to about 75 or 80 employees because you had new employees coming in. No one really knew what to do. Then, I'm making hiring decisions. And I can say in hindsight now, I didn't make the best hiring decisions. It was a lot of times it was like, just get a body in here. And we didn't have those resources to find those people. And you really remind me a lot of one of my neighbors and good friend, Paul Hewitt. They have a company here in town called Hewitt Tech. Same thing. Started in his garage. He had a great idea. He was the technical expertise on it. He built a device that helps solve problems with Toyota Tundra trucks and some check engine light stuff that happens. And, now he's, expanded out of his garage and his upstairs room to his own facility now and expanded there. Now he's looking at buying a bigger facility. Very similar stories. He's trying to hire people and try to get managers in there and do those things. And I can't stress enough how tough it is. And a lot of our customers are small independent repair shops. And they struggle, like you said, with the marketing, with finding the right people, having the right processes in place. And
that's it.
It's not fun stuff to deal with. You'd rather be working on your business, but it's really important stuff that can really affect your bottom line of your company at the end of the day.
Yeah, that stuff all goes to the bottom line at the end of the day. That needs need to constantly focus on being competitive, not only today, but tomorrow. Yeah, that's a huge challenge.
So let's talk about competitiveness in South Carolina, right? So, I had Ted Pitts on here with the the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce and some people from Richland County, just kind of talking about South Carolina. Why is, in your opinion, why is South Carolina a good place to do business if you're a manufacturer?
I think lots of things. Good workforce, a strong technical college system to help train that workforce. I think we have a very, very business-friendly environment here. From the state government who encourages it, particularly with a focus on manufacturing. And I always say this: we're just the right size here. That all the different entities, from the South Carolina Department of Commerce, Department of Employment and Workforce, SCMEP, the tech college system, most of the players, they know each other, and I think that, combined with a real focus on always remembering who the customer is and why we're here, and that we're here to serve them and help them be successful, to help them make sure that they can employ lots and lots of South Carolinians. That's it. I think that is really what sets the state apart in that one. Very, very friendly, very pro-manufacturing business environment.
So I think if manufacturers are listening to this right now, I think it's important for them to also understand you're a nonprofit.
That's right.
Right? Can you explain the business structure there a little bit?
Yeah. So, here in South Carolina, as the MEP franchise holder, we're a 50c3 not-for-profit. Part of our funding comes from the MEP program, which is administered by the National Institute of Standards and Technologies. Then we also get funding from the state through the South Carolina Department of Commerce. We work very, very closely with our partners there. The balance of the revenues we have to make through project revenues. So we have some free services. The majority are for fee, but because of the funding sources, you should always find that those services are very, very affordable. And again, we recognize that our customer base is small and medium-sized manufacturers.
So one of my neighbors actually works for SCMEP.
That's right.
And that's Adriana. How many employees do you guys have? And what all is everyone doing over there? Is it all training? Is it administration? Is it sales? How are you guys kind of structured?
Well, I'm hoping they're all working hard right now. Actually, we have 18 employees right now. We have obviously a president, we have admin staff. Our headquarters is actually in Greenville. But we have 6 regional vice presidents. They are our business development people. So they're there to provide the outreach to companies, to assess the companies using our proprietary assessment tool. They are there based on the results of that to then find out or determine the needs to help put together projects that will help and address those issues that the assessments find. And then they will manage those projects, and they will also then build those projects. They have the complete sales cycle on that one, each with a particular territory, a set number of counties that they have. And then we have 5 internal delivery people. 4 of them focus on what I call the lean or continuous improvement suite of tools, very much there to help companies control their costs, improve them, put better processes in, and make sure that things are lean. And then one gentleman who focuses heavily on engineering, so product development, project management, and also a little bit into the marketing area that focuses on basically messaging, how you message and get over what your company does and how it does it well.
So you mentioned a term there twice. Let's talk about that for a second. That's lean, right? So that's a term I think maybe a lot of people aren't really quite familiar with, or maybe they think they know what it is. Can you kind of just break it down for everyone? What is lean?
It's lean. It's a suite of tools that eliminates waste from a company. And by waste, I don't mean the stuff that goes in the trash can. It's all the basically the non-value added activities, things that you may be doing in your company that your customer is just not willing to pay for. So being able to identify those and then design processes, perhaps policies that address those and remove them, very, very important, because those things, your customer's not paying for them and you're doing them, that means you're losing money. So it's the ability to do those, extract those things, get them out of the company, and just basically become more efficient. The lean tools address that.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is exactly what we've been going through here at Diesel Laptops as well. So lean's not just for people listening or watching, lean's not just for manufacturers. It's really for any business at all that's out there doing anything.
Any business, any place where you've got processes. So healthcare, distribution, manufacturing, office environments. Yes, those tools are applicable.
Yeah. And I've seen in our industry, lean being implemented in service repair facilities, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of waste. I always tell people this. I would bet my paycheck if you walk into a heavy duty shop, you're going to have trucks in all the bays and you got one technician per bay. I've yet to walk in a shop and actually see more than half the shop actually with a technician actually working on a truck because they're all out doing other stuff, right? Trying to find parts or shuttling trucks around. And we talk about those leaky buckets. So even in manufacturing with repairing trucks, tons of leaky buckets out there that people don't really realize what they're losing there. And those little things add up to big numbers over time.
They do. So, for instance, I mean, that's a very good example. Every time that your technician, puts the wrench down and goes off to the parts department to do that, and he waits 5, 10, 15 minutes while the parts guy goes and finds that part, non-value added activity. Wouldn't it be great if he just put the wrench down, turned around, and that part was already there for him? So that's the kind of lean thinking. That's the kind of waste that we're looking to eliminate.
Yeah. In the shop, I mean, I could ramble for hours, but I've seen everything from, the tool cabinet area is disorganized. So I spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes finding a tool. We got 10 technicians doing that. All of a sudden you lost an hour of productivity somewhere. So those little things really do add up. And I know on the manufacturing side, I've been through enough manufacturing facilities to know you can really dial those processes in and save seconds and minutes off things. It's just a huge, huge impact. So anyone listening to this that's a manager, a shop owner, anyone at all in their business, if you don't know anything about lean at all, at least go on YouTube at least look about it. There's organizations such as yours that have classes that they do them. So let's talk about your classes. I know you guys do some hands-on stuff. You also do online stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
Let's talk about COVID here a little bit. How have the hands-on? Have you guys paused those now with the COVID situation, or restarted, or where are you guys at?
We had a very, very what we call open enrollments, and you could come to one of our facilities in Greenville, Columbia, or a shared one in Charleston, and you might be in there with 5 people from 5 other companies. When middle of March came, the demand for those dropped off. Very much so. So our pivot was to then make those available virtually, to be able to deliver them remotely via whatever platform you want, Teams, Zoom, anything like that. So a lot of effort in the company to do that. Good success there. People signing up for those classes. We've seen the open enrollments come back. We've seen people who are willing to actually come into the classroom. And we've been able to actually forge a hybrid now. So there'll be some people who will come in. I think we had this in a class in Greenville just last week. So a couple of people are actually in the room with the instructor. Again, socially distanced, face mask. Room has been sanitized before they come in. But then there's also a couple of people that join by Zoom. So we have that hybrid model going as well. This was planned pre-COVID, but in May of this year, we launched SCMEP Online, and that is on-demand training. So, you're not actually joining in with an instructor who's actually delivering a class in a classroom somewhere. This is a class that you can take. It's online. You can take it at midnight. You can take it at 4 a.m., whatever suits your schedule. So that's, we boosted that, launched it mid-May, and it's doing very, very well. We're continuing to add new content to it. And then the traditional model for MEPs is, we're always there available to come and work on site in your facility. So whether that be a training class or a consulting engagement, we're very happy doing that. So we've had to adapt very much so, I think, just like everybody else in business.
Yeah, so I can tell you too from our side, the training classes have definitely kind of came back and everything for us now. So we're seeing our classes actually booking out, and we only keep 8 to 12 students in a class, but they're filling up now. People are a little more okay to travel. We actually had business strategic partners that traveled to meet us last week, which is the first time since March. I know you mentioned you haven't really traveled that much. So we're going on one of your first trips to go see someone here. So I appreciate you coming and everything. But when COVID hit, did your manufacturers and people you work with, did your phone ring more or less? Because part of me would think hey, we got to go figure out how to be more profitable here. We got to cut expenses or do something here? Or did people just kind of say, yeah, I'm gonna buckle down and try to get through this thing?
Yeah,
Which way did it go for you guys?
I think initially what we saw, our phone rang and we continued to get emails, but most of them were around about postponements. Everybody's head was spinning. Nobody knew what was happening. It was a real struggle to navigate forward, a path forward. A lot of companies, particularly the larger ones, they simply had a no visitor policy. Didn't matter who you were, what you were doing. So a lot of postponements and projects paused. Then we saw the reopening. And again, everybody's on a different point in the spectrum. There are still some companies out there who they want to, their intention is not to allow visitors until January. There are other ones that are comfortable right now, again, with precautions. So we see it all over there. We are seeing it come back. Our new fiscal year began in July. And no, we're not at the levels that we were this time last year. But in terms of the rebound, we're definitely seeing it.
It's coming back. Yeah, we're seeing the same thing here too at Diesel Laptops. So let's do this. Say I'm a manufacturer. I'm brand. I've never worked with you guys before. Like I said, small. What steps do you go through? Is there like an assessment that you guys do at first, or what process do you go through to help new customers?
I mean, so you can. We've got a great website. Easy to navigate. You can find the contact information, or you can just email info@scmep.org. That email will come to me, and we'll put you in touch with the right person, the regional vice president that covers the county that you're in. We'll come. Be glad to talk to you via Zoom, phone, or in person, and just start a conversation so we understand who you are and what your needs are. Our preferred method is always to do what we call a competitiveness review. That's a free assessment, free for any manufacturer in South Carolina. And that lets us take a 30,000-foot picture of your business, where you are right now, the issues you're facing, where you want to get to. And the output from that is a series of recommendations that will help you move from that current state to the future state you desire. Again, entirely free. Depending on the size and complexity of your company, it can be delivered by one or two of our regional vice presidents. And our aim is always to do that analysis and turn it back to you within 10 business days. There's no obligation. We can bring it back. We can review it. Some people will love all the recommendations, want to move forward. Others will want time to think about it. Again, it's at that point, it is entirely confidential and it's turned over. It's your report. But that's a really good way. I think for us, Tyler, the way I like to liken it is, to be, a good doctor is the one that listens. You don't want somebody that writes prescriptions when they don't know you and they don't know your symptoms. So that's what we do with the competitiveness review, where we always prefer to engage with the company. Of course, if you have an issue, an absolutely burning issue, perhaps your ISO 9001 certification is under threat, you need internal auditors training, you have a certification audit in 2 weeks, we're going to focus on that. But, what's the most important thing? But long term, to build a relationship, to really understand your company, to hopefully move us into the role of trusted advisor, we'd love to do the free assessment.
Yeah, that sounds like a great thing to offer to anybody. And I know, especially as we were growing up as a company here, you get caught up a lot of times just working in your business, not on your business, right? And
exactly.
And how do you get from where you want to be today to the next step? And that's tough for people to see through the forest a lot of times. So I'm assuming you see quite a bit of that.
Yeah, we do. And what you're getting the benefit is of two people coming in here, probably with a combined 50 years manufacturing experience. No politics, no agenda, no axe to grind. Yeah. We're going to come in. We're going to tell you what we see. We're going to tell you what we would do. If the baby's ugly, we'll tell you the baby's ugly. We'll find a nice way to do it. But, there's absolutely no benefit in telling you what we think you want to hear. We're going to tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah, so that's the big thing I'm trying to get across to all of our listeners and watchers this year is, man, there are some great resources out there. Mm-hmm. Some are free, some are expensive, some are in the middle there somewhere. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't even know they exist. Mm-hmm. That's I would imagine kind of one of the hard parts. You guys have to market to manufacturers. Mm-hmm. Do you guys able to do that pretty successfully, or do a lot of people not know who MEP is across the country?
Well, there's always one phrase that makes my toes curl, Tyler, and that's, you're such a well-kept secret, Not really what I want to hear. we have done a lot in the last few years with marketing. I think we've really, really upped our game. And last year we worked with 495 manufacturers out of the 6,000. So among the MEP system, we had very, very good market penetration. That's great. That's also last year. So the thing is always to uncover new clients, to get out there, do the outreach. So that is a constant. That's a constant theme with us, is to grow it, to grow our customer base, because that's what our board wants. That's what our stakeholders at the state level, South Carolina Department of Commerce, want, and that's what our federal stakeholders, National Institute of Standards Technology, that's what they want. So constantly growing through outreach. That's what it's all about.
Well, you guys must be doing a fairly good job, because the first name I dropped to you before we went on the air here was AMBAC, who's a local manufacturer here in town. They make diesel injectors and everything, and you're like, oh yeah, I know the guys over there. So you guys are obviously out there doing things, which is great to see. And you have an impact too on the economy at the end of the day, right? It's all about the results.
Yeah.
So can you rattle off some of the stats on the impact that your organization has just in the state of South Carolina?
That's it. Yeah. So basically, what happens is any project that we deliver, 6 to 9 months afterwards, it comes off of what we call the survey, and that is administered by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's online, and we cannot influence that. We are not allowed to see that link, but it's very important that our clients complete that. And basically, it's a series of questions, and what it's drilling down to is a return on investment. What did you spend with SCMEP, and how did that impact your bottom line? It also looks at retained jobs and created jobs, retained sales and created sales, and things like that. The total number rolled up for all our clients for the 4 quarters of last year was $1.9 billion.
It's a B with a B.
With a B, yeah.
It's a big number.
That's not my accent. That is a B, yeah, $1.9 billion. So that's, I think, a very, very good. I don't know about your portfolio, Tyler, but if mine had that kind of return on investment, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you today.
I wish I could get that kind of return as well. And it's funny, I don't really follow the stock market much, but I have money in there.
Yeah.
And I just assumed I lost it all when COVID happened. And I met with my broker, a month or two ago. He's like, "Oh, you're up for the year." I'm like, "What is going on?" It is a crazy world we live in nowadays, right?
Yeah,
so
very much so.
We'll see where it all ends. So I know you guys have done some case studies. I've seen them on your website, and I think you kind of brought one in today to talk about that actually does relate to our industry.
It does.
Why don't you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we worked with a manufacturer in Aiken, South Carolina, last year and this year. They manufacture diesel engines, large diesel engines. The application's a lot in the oil and gas and exploration fields, particularly I think in fracking. And they're very large. They're very expensive engines. And before they leave the facility, they are run through a whole barrage of tests. And the thing that they're you obviously want to do is make sure that there's no failures in the field, because they're incredibly expensive to correct, and preferably that there's no failures actually on the test bed themselves. So they had a testing program, force testing cells, testing programs, and a huge amount of variables are logged and analyzed. Every hundredth of a second. But for every failure on the test bed, you're talking about $250,000 impact.
So big money.
Few of those, it adds up very, very quickly, and again, the bottom line is severely impacted. So we partnered about 2 years ago with a artificial intelligence company out of Rock Hill. The name of the company is Delta Bravo.
Okay.
And because we were starting to get manufacturers saying, what is this AI thing? Can it help me? Is there a chance to improve my quality, improve my machine uptime? And it's like, absolutely, the answer is yes. So we were able to connect our partners, Delta Bravo, with the manufacturer in Aiken, and put together a project. They certainly felt that they could help. And basically, within 90 days, they had been able to practically reduce or eliminate failures on the test bed. They got to the point with all that huge amount of data that they had an artificial intelligence engine that could analyze it and start to predict engines that were going to fail. And then the engine, would be wound down and taken off the test bed before there was a catastrophic failure. And I think basically last year, I think within the first 90 days, they were actually able to predict 21 engines that were going to fail.
Before they failed.
Yeah. And again, you can get them off. You've got an idea, you've got data that indicates what the problem might be, and you can go fix it, do some rework on them, rather than having an engine that's a catastrophic failure. So that ability to take
all that data and then find the patterns in it. That was the beauty of artificial intelligence. So, making sure that one, defective engines didn't get out to the field and have those very expensive field failures, and then making sure that you weren't tying up, equipment, test cells, and things like that with failures actually in the plant. So again, just simply fantastic way of application of new technology to solve very, very complex problems that had eluded the best minds for years and years.
So how much do you think that saved that company, just that one little thing?
Oh, I think in a year, it's around about $5 million. But it's the kind of thing that, hopefully it's the gift that we'll keep on giving. So every year, those engines won't be failing in those test cells.
So there's another company that's on one of one of our episodes here in season 2, Uptake. So they're very similar thing with predictive diagnostics. That's what everybody wants, right? Because they started a little bit different. They started with kind of locomotives. Berkshire Hathaway invested a bunch of money with them. Okay. So, they have that situation going on. But similar thing, they're now able to do it on commercial trucks. And that predictive diagnostics, when you solve the customer's problem one time, people kind of understand now, okay, there is something, this AI and technology, and it does impact me, and it can affect my business and make me more profitable.
Absolutely. Yep. It's a very, very powerful new tool that we have out there for manufacturers and other businesses too.
Well, and I appreciate you finding an example to do with our industry a little bit too with the diesel engines. I know that was probably a little bit of a challenge for you.
Again, it's a project we're very, very proud of. One of our first AI projects. I think we've done about another 14 or 15 with other manufacturers, but that was one of the first ones out and had a tremendous impact right out the gate.
Do you see that AI having a bigger impact in the future as more companies understand the impact and benefit?
Very much so, Tyler. I think what we've seen is a willingness to explore it with the larger companies. What we're overcoming now is the mindset like, I've got 25 people, I've got 30 people, I've got maybe 75 people. I don't think that's for me yet. Isn't that incredibly expensive and incredibly complex? And don't I need a huge IT department? And the answer is no. Yeah. It's like everything else that's kind of IT related. It starts to build, and the cost starts to come down, and it becomes affordable for the small and medium sized guys too.
I mean, that's usually the way technology goes, right? Those big companies, they foot the bill of the big expensive stuff and kind of got it figured out, and then it was able to scale up and a lot cheaper for everyone else. So great case example. I really appreciate giving us that one.
All right.
Any final words of advice you'd give to anyone listening that's just struggling, they're a manufacturer or involved in that space at all, if they're out there? Any last words of advice you give to them? Or
you're not alone. There are plenty of great resources in this state. Again, the state is very pro-business, very pro-manufacturing, and feel free to reach out to SCMEP. We pride ourselves on having the services either we can deliver internally or with our large network of third-party providers. So chances are, if you've got a need as a manufacturer, we can help you. If we can't, again, we have a very wide network and are very well connected. And what we can do, if we can't help you directly, we can certainly put you in touch with somebody that can. So don't struggle with it. Don't lose sleep over it. Reach out. There's some great resources out there for you.
Well, I know you dropped it earlier. You want to throw out that email address or the phone number or the website again one more time for everyone?
The website is www.scmep.org. Again, .org, not a com, not a net, .org. And if you want to send an email, send it to info@scmep.org, and that will reach me.
Well, I want to say you've been the most interesting guest from the aspect of the Scottish accent, but I've also learned a lot today about everything going on. So I had no idea, honestly, there was resources out there like what you guys provide. It's been a real eye-opener for me this year as I've been talking to people and doing research and following people on LinkedIn and just learning what's out there. And I just kind of implore any business owner out there at all or a manager, just look and start talking to people and start networking. It is amazing the people that want to genuinely help your business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and your business is probably unique. Some of the problems or most of the problems that you're facing are not.
Yep.
So there are people that are out there, they've dealt them, they've seen them, and they've provided solutions for them.
Well, thank you very much for coming on today and talking with us. It was great to learn about what you guys do. And as we sign off with every episode, let me say this again one more time. Please go find people out there that are willing to help your company, your organization. There are a lot of resources out there. You need to keep finding them. You need to keep networking. You need to keep building those relationships. It's very critical as you want to grow and expand your business, which I think pretty much everybody does at the end of the day. So with that said, again, thank you, Andy, very much for coming on. And remember, everybody, it's not just diagnostics, it's diagnostics done right.